video. So I pulled the fender off my Harley. It had a dent right here. You can see, here's the low spots everywhere. You see where this paint was cracked, the dent was is down inside of it. I hammered a little bit of it out already, but I wanted to show you this part. I'm hitting it with some 80 grit where you can see these low spots here, 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 and then through here. So what I'm gonna do is get my hammer and my dolly and go on the backside and see if I can't flatten this getting this fender back with its curve. And then I'll show you getting all the paint off of it here. And what I'm gonna do is blend it. I don't wanna paint this whole fender because a lot of the paint's still good and it's got the pinstripe painted in. So what I'm gonna do is blend down over the edges and show you how that turns out. So at this point, like I said, I'm gonna get my body hammer and body dolly and see if I can't get some curvature back to this so I'm not just stacking it full of Bondo. All right guys, so there it is after some body hammering, some dollying, and you can see she's pretty freaking smooth. She worked out really good. I just got one little place here that's having a hard time where it was creased. I wish I'd have took a picture before or showed you how far this dent was in, but it was in quite a ways. So I've got a little bit where I had to take basically the point of the ball peen and tap it out and then massage it back down, and it's left me just a little bit of an unevenness. Guys, we'll see if I can show this to you. So this is a contour tool, super helpful. You can press it down just like so, and you can see gives you the contour of the fender. So just to show you where I've got it worked out, right there is what it looks like. So you can see she's pretty spot on. It's hard to do it one hand, but you can tell all the way up through there, there's almost no gap. So this is back on the good part right here. Let me try to balance it on there. Always try to get these pushed down. It's way easier to do with two hands, but you can see right there's as close as I can get it there, and then up here, and then middle, and then end. Try to, well, if I can get it balanced. There you go. So pretty close. Now I just gotta go get some filler. I don't trust what I've got, so I run to the parts store, get some filler and some spray filler primer, and we'll hit this back up. All right guys, so I got the skim coat on there. I know it looks a little thick, but I always go a little thicker on the first one so I can sand it down and don't have to keep doing layers. So hopefully I can get it in one hit, and then maybe a little bit for pinhole feel, and then we'll do the primer. But now we're going to let that dry about 15 minutes or so, and then she'll be ready for some sanding, where we'll hit it with probably 80 grit first to get the ridges, to get it fully smooth, and then we'll hit it probably 120 to get it lined out. All right guys, so there's all that Bondo sanded down. Now you can see like through here, these are high spots I hit when I was blocking it. So I got my block and I was going across it in an X pattern, trying to keep that arc right there in it. Now I was hitting high spots, and I'd had to take I took my little ball peen and knocked those high spots down and kept sanding. So I kept doing this until I've got down basically to this area here. So now I've got little divots where I knocked down high spots to make it a uniform flat surface. So you can see all that putty went away. Now my next skim of putty is just going to be in this area here. I won't go out as wide. So before you know, I had a big section, and that was to make sure I was covering everything around the outsides and that there wasn't going to be any little spots hit. So that tells me all this is level and all this is level. So now I'll let this dry, just degreased it, skim it, and we'll let it sit. And then on this go around, I'll actually step up a grade from 120 to 220 and kind of start getting it more feathered out and getting this more into the stages of working out for the 400 grit. So it'd be 220, then 320, and then I hit it with a filler primer, and then we'll go from there. All right guys, so here's the next skim coat. It's a real thin coat across the entire portion, like I said, right here. I didn't go up as high as I did last time. And then when this cures, we're gonna start hitting it. I'll hit it first with 120 just to smooth it out. And then I'll go with 220 and we'll start getting this feather. All right, guys, so I got that sanded down. I blocked it again, and then I took 220 and just basically smoothed her down, smoothed out some of those harsh edges, and I stopped. Once you see I started hitting bare metal again, because these are the high spots. And remember, those are those low spots that we hammered down, and I feathered it out. So the first thing we did, I went ahead and taped up around the area just so I don't get this primer overspray. Now as we move forward, I'll create a soft edge for when we start painting, but as of right now, we're just going to hit this area with primer, and then those edges that'll create from the tape, we'll obviously wet sand those down with 600 before we go. But I'm going to go ahead, throw some just 2-in-1 filler sandable primer, put it on there. All right, guys, so that's pretty well dry. The next thing we'll do is lightly mist. I always keep some old cans of paint around those collars, because this will be my guide coat. So I'm basically just going to, well, that wasn't too light, but see, I'm just keeping back. And we're going to let that dry. And that's going to be my guide coat. So when I sand this off, we got to make sure all that color goes away. And if there's any color in low spots, well, that means it's too low and we're going to have to put more filler in it. So we're going to let that dry. We'll give it about 30 minutes, and then what I'll do is probably hit it with a 600 grit wet sand. That way I can go ahead and jump on it and not have to wait a couple hours for it to dry sand. All right, guys, so it's cold here in West Virginia, so I got to go and buy my stove. But there I sanded all the red off. You can see I have a low spot there due to 2 high spots. So I've pecked them down, and I'll sand that out a little bit. And then you see I hit a high spot there and a high spot there, which made a low spot. So I knocked those guys down. Here, I'm just hitting the curvature of the fender. So the dent, the main dent, you remember, was right through here. It was like a diagonal dent from what little bit I got to show you in the beginning. But here was the main part of it. Well, I hit a bunch of high spots. And then here's a dent low spot that was already in there. So as I hit these high spots, it wouldn't let me get down to sanding the collar off, obviously, in between these 2 areas. So as I pecked it down with the little ball peen and kept my contour, I got it sanded. And so that's the result there. So I've got to add little touch-up spots with body filler. And it's going to be, of course, right here, some right here, and now a little bit through here in this area. Now I'm not going to slather the whole thing again because it don't need it, because we've hit all the right spots. Everything's looking good. Now this go around, what I did was I got me a paint stick and I soaked it in water, and that allows it to curve. And then of course I use my 600 grit sandpaper, and then this stick here with the sandpaper wrapped around it will curve to the contour of the fender, allowing you to make sure you get the nice arch right here. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and get this degreased, let it dry, and then I'm going to hit it with a little bit of Bondo or body filler and let it set up. The body filler I'm using is actually just some Evercoat. It's some Bondo from Advance Auto. I had good luck out of it, can't complain, but I'm going to sand these little areas down here to get the red paint out of them, just to make sure we get maximum adhere with the the red paint and the body filler, just to make sure we get maximum adhesion. All right, guys, so remember I added a little bit thicker here and here, and then just skimmed it all. So when I go and I hit it with that 320, we're gonna get a real nice sanding flat surface. So I'll take my stick again, wrap it at 320 once it's finished curing, and get that little bit off there so I don't have to sand that. But give it a good sand, and honestly, we should be getting super close to this being ready for the final coat of primer. So what we'll do, again, like I said, we're going to primer it, guide coat it, wet sand it again. And at that point, it should look pretty good. Here it is sanded down, as you can tell. That took that skim off. You can see the little places of where it hit. You see these are used to be the high spots, which now everything is actually flush. There is no bump. Those are just, and it's okay to hit bare metal in some places, as long as it's not, you don't feel that jump. I checked it with the contour tool. Everything looks real good. So the next step is to go ahead and get this tape back up, throw a couple spray layers of filler primer, and then we'll hit it with the guide coat, and we'll do the exact same thing again. And hopefully this time she'll be ready for that final layer of filler primer. Let it dry, we'll wet sand it, and then it's time for some collar. So no backmasking this time, but we will here soon. All right, masking tape removed. This is gave it a good adequate time to dry. Now to go ahead, get my stick back and go ahead and do that 600 grit wet sand across it. And hopefully this will be the last time. I'll show you that end result. All right, guys, so there she is, wet sanded, and unfortunately a couple low spots still, but that's why we do this. So you can see I have a really low spot right here and right here. Now when you run your finger over it, you can barely feel it. And I know it's a low spot, not two high spots, because you see we're high spotted there, we're down to the metal, and we're down to the metal here. And then all along up top here, it was fine, and all along below it's fine. So we know that is a true low spot. Now up here, we have a baby low spot. I mean, it's little, it's hard to even pick up on the camera, but it is there. So we're going to have to sand a little bit there, up here, 2 little low spots onto the transition. Again, you can't really hardly feel them. So once I add this filler in here and get this spot taken care of, we might be able to sand that one down without putting any filler, because it's just a transition. And the same up here, this is another low spot that you can't feel at all, but that is going to be, I would say, a transition. So the bonder's a little, or the filler's a little high right here. We can sand that down and not have to put any more filler. And we got a little bit here of a low spot. And again, I think that's more of a transition. So maybe I'll just sand that out and be fine. So what I'm gonna do here is grab my 120 and I'm gonna dig this area back out, get all the primer off of it, and spot fill. Again, I'm gonna block this, see if I can't get it to go away, and block right here and see if I can't get that to go away. Now, this here, I am going to have to cut down in a little bit and cut down in this a little bit and fill that, but that's no big deal. All right, guys, got this outside to paint it today. It's a beautiful day in West Virginia. So what we're gonna do on this process is called backmasking. So we're gonna lay the paper over here and mask it like we're gonna cover up what we're gonna paint, but then we're gonna fold it back. Now this is gonna take a little bit more time to get all your paper right, but what this does, see right here, this creates a soft edge and not a hard edge. So when we put the black, so I'll come up with the black a little bit, it'll mist over, and then I'll come up and we'll clear this whole thing. What that's gonna do is allow us a place to blend in for buffing. Because I'll do my soft edge right here at this, basically right at this pinstripe, and when I paint the black, I'll stay up here. That way I'm not covering up that pinstripe. So I'll get this masked off and I'll show you what it is. A little windy, but you know what, it won't be that bad. All right, guys, so she's all back masked. You can see the soft edges all the way around. I had to do it in sections because, of course, rolling it back is hard to do. But actually, it went too high right here to roll that back just a smidge. But anyways, so right now we are ready to hit some, I got some custom cans, Vivid Black. I ordered it offline. We'll see how well she lays down. They had good reviews. So let's hit it with a light coat. Like I said, I'm gonna focus my black here, down over this area and kind of blending it. I'm not going to take it all the way forward. That'll be for the clear. So I'll show you after the first coat. So there you can see there's the first coat. As you see, it's not covered up a whole lot, but we'll keep it going. All right, guys, so there's the fourth coat of collar. I done the last one really thick. You can see it's looking good. See with this gloss shine on it, show you. Don't really see any imperfections where the dent was. Now we're gonna let that dry for 1 hour, and then we're gonna hit it with some clear. All right, guys, so I put that last coat on. I'm up to like 5 coats. That should be good enough. This dupa collar is pretty clear, so you can see it's got a nice sheen to it, but it'll have better after we buff it. You see that orange peel. It's kind of hard to do with these water-based paints now, but it's not too bad. It should smooth out when it's dry, and of course the overspray will wet sand off. But all in all, she's looking pretty good. So we're gonna let that dry a couple days, let it sit out in the sun and bake, and it's supposed to be nice tomorrow here in West Virginia, so definitely let it sit out in the sun. But go give it 30 minutes to dry here, and then I'll probably go ahead and pull those maskings off. A couple days dry. See, it's got dirt on her, but we're getting ready to wet sand all this off. So you can see here, good stripe, and then where the overspray happened. So this is actually where I'm gonna start sanding with 1000. Is down here until I get that stripe back, and then I'll go across here and blend all these edges really nice. Same down here until everything blends real good, and then I'll do the 1000 over top of, and of course down here I'll do 1000 across where I painted, but we won't focus on it as much as we will getting it to blend here. So I'm going to take 1000 grit and just take my time and work this together, and I'll show you the end result. All right, guys, so I got a lot of this 1000 grit sanded. I want to stop and show you a few things. So I know it's really hard to tell, but you see this little jut out of clear. Well, it still has an edge to it. You can see how the paint's kind of shiny around it. That will show when you buff it. So as I've been working up here, this line, there is no transition line. It's real smooth. So you can see right here, I've got big transition lines, and see it's still real rough. And you can actually see some of the clear down here that I don't need because this was overspray. So I've got to keep working on these certain areas and get that all going and get all this blended so there's not a hard line. So you'll see kind of like up here is a good example of how it blends in. Of course you can see the 2 collar type differences, but that's just where it's newer black to old black, and when it buffs, you'll probably see a little bit of difference, but it shouldn't be big. But I wanted to stop and show you that, and I'm just gonna continue working with 1000 grit till I get it all where I need to be. And then you can see like these little pits. That's where you've got that orange peel. You can keep sanding until those are going. We know we put a lot of clear on this to be able to sand this out. So you can see there is a lot of surfaces that is good, but we just need to sand that down. So I'll keep doing it. You can see here this transition's going. There's no, you can see how it's blending back into the collar. So here's the original black into fading into the new black. So you can see I've done it all the way around. Same fading back here. There's different stages of when it started fading. You'll run into that. It's how the paint blends down. So now what I'll do is, you can see I got rid of most of the orange peel too. What I'm gonna do the next step, I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with 2000 and go ahead and just all these places, just bring them out some more. And then of course I've got different stages of polishers over here. I've got a high-speed polisher with 3 stages of foam pad. I usually use a wool pad, but I'm out of them right now. And then I'll do the final cut with a dual action polisher there. So we go ahead and get sanded on this 2000. I'll show you that, and then we'll move on to buffing. All right, guys, so I'm gonna be using this 3M rubbing compound with the different stages of pads. So you don't need to go wild with the rubbing compound, just little dots around the pad. And then I've been holding on to it with my knees as I buff, but I'll spend some time on it. Buffing's really an art. You stay too long, you'll burn through the paint. Not enough, you won't get what you need accomplished with getting the scratches out. And then if you hit high spots like these little rivets, you'll blow the paint off those real fast. So it really is an art. If you're going at it the first time, my suggestion would be just to keep moving and don't dwell in one spot until you get more of the hang of it and the more of the feel of the pressure you put on the pad onto the buffer. And you got to be super careful around like these emblems, because the pad can grab them, just rip them right off. But I'll go ahead and hit it with this first layer of buffing, and I'll show you what it looks like. And then of course we'll start stepping out with the medium grade pad, and then the final grade pad, and then the dual action buffer with the black pad. All right guys, so here's after a little bit with the coarse pad. I had to get it right at, you can see it there. You tilt it up this way, you're looking down on top, it looks all right. And of course here you can see the transition. So that collar wasn't exactly the right collar, but it's really hard to tell on camera. But what it basically looks like is it's not as dark of a black as the other. There you can see really well. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep taking it through the buffing stages. Right now I'm gonna hit it with the medium. I want to spend so much time on it like I did with the coarse, but we'll go medium and then fine, and then we'll hit it with some voodoo polish with the black pad and see what the final result looks like all polished up. All right guys, so my green pad disintegrated, so I had to spend more time on the yellow pad. And there's what she looks like. Now you can really see that line in this light here, but if I turn it, I have to get right on top of it to see the fade. But that's what it looks like underneath, just the poor lighting I have in my garage. So now's the final step of hitting it with the dual action buffer, just to give it the rest of that high shine. And then what we'll have to do is I'll have to get it back on the bike and get it out in the sun. And then well, take his fender out in the sun. And that's where the proof is really at. Voodoo Ride polish. So this is 3-in-1, it cleans, polishes, and seals. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit that and get that final buff in using this. All right guys, so here's like the 2 foot away view. Don't mind all the mess around it. There you can see it's in the right light. So from 2 foot, you look at it this way, you can see right there. And then down here, you can see the change right there. But I've been so focused on the blend and how this vivid black that I got, as you can tell up close, is almost a lighter black than this here. But as you get further out, see, so that black it's close, but no cigar. But all in all, the one thing I am skipping over is the repair itself looks really good. So as you remember, that repair was actually right here where that dent was in it. But the dent looks really good. I know a lot of people are gonna say should have just painted the whole fender and you wouldn't have had this blending problem. But you know, I've always got to try this different stuff and see how it turns out. But I think the blend down over the side doesn't look bad. It just that 2 different collars. But that's here under these LEDs. We'll see how good or bad it looks outside. And then of course, you know, on the bike, your forks and everything are sitting over top of this. This goes down over the back, so we'll have to see what it looks like on the bike. All right, guys, so here it is on the bike. It ended up looking pretty good, not too bad. It's definitely probably a good 5-footer, I would imagine. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please drop them down below. Be sure to go to my Instagram and follow me on there. Of course, Mustang Jackson 67. But until next time, let's keep building.